TED Talk slow version. Why it is so hard to escape poverty. Imagine that you've been unemployed and seeking work for a month. Government's benefit program has helped you cover rent, utilities, and food, but you're barely getting by. Finally, you hear back about the job application. You receive your first paycheck in month, and things seem to be turned around, but there's a catch. Your new job pays just enough to disqualify you from the benefit programs and not enough to cover the same costs. To make things worse, you have to pay for transportation to work and childcare while you're at the office. Somehow, you have less money now than when you're unemployed. Economists call this demoralizing situation the welfare trap, one of the many different poverty traps affecting millions of people around the world. Poverty traps are economic and environmental circumstances that reinforce themselves, perpetuate poverty for generations. Some poverty traps are tied to individual circumstances, like a lack of access to health, food, or education. Others can affect entire nations, such as cycles of corrupt governments or climate change. But the cruel irony of welfare trap in particular is that they stand for the very policy designed to battle poverty. Most societies throughout the history employ some strategy to help people in poverty meet basic needs. Before the 20th century, religious groups and private charities often led such initiatives. Today, these are called welfare programs and usually take the form of governments provide subsidy for housing, food, energy, and health care. Typically, these programs are means tested, meaning that only people who fall below a certain income level are eligible for benefits. This policy is designed to ensure aid goes to those who need it most, but it also means people lose access as soon as they earn more than their qualification threshold, regardless whether or not they're financially stable enough to stay there. This vicious cycle is harmful to both those in poverty and those outside of it. Mainstream economic models assume people are rational actors who weigh the costs and benefit of their options and choose the most advantageous path forward. If those in poverty know they gain no net benefit from working, they are intensified to mean government assistance. Of course, people work for many reasons, including society norms and cultural values, but income is the main intensive for pursuing employment. Unless the people take on new jobs, their economy slows down, keeping people in poverty and potentially pushing people on the cause of poverty over the edge. Some of the suggested feedback loop could be removed by eliminating government assistance programs altogether, but most agree the solution is neither realistic nor humane. So, how can we design benefit in a way that doesn't penalize people for working? Many countries that try different ways to circumvent this problem. Some allow people to continue receiving benefit for a given period after finding a job, while others phase the benefit gradually as income increases. These policies still remove some financial incentive to work, but the risk of failure trap is lower. Other governments provide benefits like education, childcare, or medical care equally across all their citizens. One proposed solution takes this idea of universal benefit even further. A universal basic income would provide fixed benefit to all members of society, regardless of wealth or employment status. This is only no policy that could entirely remove welfare tax, since any earned wages to supplement the benefit rather than replace it. In fact, By creating a stable income floor below which no one can fall, basic income might prevent people from falling into poverty in the first place. Numerous economists and thinkers have championed this idea since the 18th century. But for now, universal basic income remains largely hypothetical. Although it's been tried to some places on a limited scale, these local experiments don't tell us much about how the policy would play out across the entire nation or planet. Whatever strategy governments pursue, solving welfare threat requires respects people's agency or autonomy. Only by individuals to create long-term change in their lives and communities can we begin to break the cycle of poverty. One more. Original speed. Imagine you've been unemployed and seeking work for a month. Government's benefit program has helped you cover rent, utility, and food, but you're barely getting by. Finally, you hear back about job application. You're seeing your first paycheck in a month, and things seem to be turned around, but there's a catch. Your new job pays just enough to disqualify you from the benefit program and not enough to cover the same costs. To make things worse, you have to pay for transportation to work and childcare while you're at the office. Somehow, you have less money now than you're unemployed. Economists call this marginalized situation the welfare trap, one of the many different poverty traps affecting millions of people around the world. Poverty traps are economic and environmental circumstances that reinforce themselves, produce poverty for generations. Some poverty traps are tied to individual circumstances, like lack of access to healthy food or education. Others can affect their entire nation, such as cycles, corrupt governments, or climate change. But the cruel irony in welfare track is particular is that they stand for the very policy designed to better poverty. Most scientists throughout history employ some strategies to help people in poverty meet basic needs. Before the 20th century, religious groups and private charities often led such initiatives. Today, these are called welfare programs and usually take the form of governments provide subsidy for housing, food, energy, and healthcare. Typically, these programs are means-tested, means that only people who fall below a certain income level are eligible for benefits. This policy is designed to ensure aim goes to those need most, but it also means people lose access as soon as they earn more than qualification threshold, regardless of whether or not they ever not stay there. This cycle is harmful to both those poverty and those outside of it. Mainstream economic model assume people are rational actors who weigh the cost and benefit of their options and choose the most advantageous path forward. If those in poverty know they're gaining no benefit from working, their incentives might remain on government assistance. Of course, people work for many reasons, including society norms and personal values. But income is a major intensive pursuing employment, and while less people take a new job, the economy slows down, keeping people in poverty and potentially putting people in the cause of poverty over the edge. Some of them suggest that feedback loops could be removed by limiting government associated program altogether. But most agree the solution is either realistic or inhuman. So how can we really design benefit in a way that doesn't penalize people for working? Many countries have tried to different ways to circumvent this problem. Some allow people to continue receiving benefit for a given period after finding a job, while others pause the benefit gradually as income increases. These policies still remove some financial incentive to work, but the risk of welfare track is lower. Other governments provide benefits like education, childcare, or medical care equally across all their citizens. One proposed solution takes this idea of universal benefit even further. A universal basic income would provide fixed benefit to all members of society, regardless of wealth or employment status. This is the only known policy that could entirely remove welfare threats, and any earned ages could supplement benefit rather than replace it. In fact, by creating a stable income floor from which no one can fall, basic income might prevent people from falling into poverty in the first place. Numerous economists and thinkers have achieved the idea since the 18th century, but for now, universal basic income remains largely hypothetical. Although it's been tried to some places on limited scale, these local experiments don't tell us much about how the policy would play out across the entire nation or planet. Whatever stretch governments pursue, serving the welfare of traffic requires respect people agency and autonomy. Only by empowering individuals to create smart changes in their life and communities they can begin to break the cycle of poverty.